Over the years, many overseas so-called pro-democracy organizations and overseas false leaders of the pro-democracy movement have not only used the name of the movement as a cover but actually for utilitarian purposes. They don't care about the suffering of the Chinese people, China's human rights and other issues. Never have they denounced the Communist Party for persecuting dissidents, arresting human rights lawyers, denouncing the Communist Party for speech offenses, communications controls, suppressing press freedom, human rights abuses, persecuting freedom of religion, and suppressing the Falun Gong. Their words have a strong color of prejudice, emphasizing their own set, think they are authentic. There is no room for dissenting voices to say anything that is not good for the Gong or that disagrees with their views. We are used to fighting with each other, attacking and slandering each other. Cliques, how to stand in line thinking ingrained. Earlier, there were pseudo-pro-democracy groups who thought they could win and govern in China after the fall of the Communist Party for political purposes. Later, they didn't want to be anti-communist at all or let the party reform itself, and some were explicitly anti-communist. It is completely a tool for one faction to attack and discredit another faction in the struggle between the top gangs of the Communist Party of China. Many of the sham pro-democracy groups do not oppose the Communist Party at all, and they also hook up with politicians and lawmakers in Western countries who were bought by the Communist Party. Many overseas bogus pro-democracy organizations, in the name of legitimate fraud, some countries' democratic funds, the fundraising activities to make profits. Some overseas pseudo-democratic movement organizations did not really want to do the democratic movement at the beginning. Some of the organizational nature of the democratic movement has changed, take the utilitarian road completely into interest groups. Some overseas pro-democracy activists were bought by the Communist Party of China (CPC) and gave up their ideals for the sake of interests. The words and deeds of some pseudo-pro-democracy organizations make people feel absurd and illogical, which will not make people feel strange. For example, there are always some people on the internet who call Hu Jintao Brother Hu or Brother Tao, the great autocrat and demon of the great autocrat, while berating the communist dictatorship. I don't know why they are so kind to Hu Jintao, the communist leader. Is it possible that Hu Jintao sent people to contact them privately? Give them benefits? If domestic Democrats were to call Mr. Hu that, it would also mean that he has to be courted privately to avoid persecution. It is hard to understand why overseas Democrats, who hate the Communist Party for its meat and skin, should be so gracious to Hu Jintao. At the beginning of the Jasmine, some people suddenly came out against the slogan "Down with Hu Jintao" and repeatedly claimed that there were Democrats at the top of the party. Excuse me, you won't even let the head of the Communist Party overthrow you. Is that against the dictatorship of the Communist Party? There are some bastards who pretend to be Democrats and repeatedly call for killing all their families. Are these family members not here to give you money? Did Hu Jintao send someone to send you a few ounces of silver, and you say that Hu Jintao might be a Democrat? Therefore, it is necessary to maintain Hu Jintao's power after the 18th CPC National Congress and then test whether he is a Democrat. What's on your mind? Is not to cooperate with Hu Jintao to stay in power. Are you being too childish with these tricks? Some of our democratic leaders not only have no hatred for Hu Jintao, but they can call him that. Do you have any conscience? I doubt your motives. Are you the people who, in Hu Jintao's internal speech, claim that the overseas pro-democracy movement is almost entirely controlled by the Communist Party? If your tail comes out accidentally, should you get out of the pro-democracy movement? Stop acting like that. Do we have to clean it up? In the era of Hu Jintao, the mercenaries were reduced to poverty. In the era of Xi Jinping, they only cared about their own interests and ignored the safety of others. Therefore, the so-called new policies of Hu and Wen are highly praised, which are the direct result of the complete destruction and corruption of tradition and morality by the CPC. And the MDC, false democratic, cling to the idea of brain dead at first, think the graceful only small endowment the middle are eligible to participate in the construction of civil society chassis. He is democratic, freedom, civil rights. Democracy should be that a few people have. Is for the rich and the elite, stars such as high-end personage prepared. And the MDC, false democratic, think Chinese is inferior race, the Chinese and China already impossible, it was ruled by high pressure, what kind of people have what kind of power, in the West is the master race, Westerners is superior. The country's elite talent, the rich. Only immigrants in foreign, is the way out. Not anti-communist but anti-Chinese people. Become the voice of the rich, the big capitalists, the big financiers, the elite. For a long time, many overseas public opinions about China, many publications of pro-democracy organizations, the so-called anti-communist publications, have paid more attention to the power struggles among the top officials of the Communist Party of China, many meaningless debates, and paid less attention to the plight and problems of the Chinese people. They have no concern for the sufferings of the Chinese people. They believe that attention to the people's suffering cannot attract the attention of the audience, attention to the power struggle at the top. There is always a selling point. And overseas public opinion, to promote the rich immigrants in Western countries, is not only safe assets, to eliminate a lot of worry concerns at home, to join the foreign can get better security, how good the welfare of the Western countries, the old be raised, and so on. Is to say, the ship to ship in the morning and evening. China has the ability to the rich Western countries, pay more attention to the life of the rich, turn a deaf ear to the poor simply on the more difficult life in China.